Chet, there's being selected to be an all-star at this early stage of your career. That's sort of one thing and something that will be there for you forever. And then there's another thing to kind of be in those locker rooms, be on that court, be there. How have you maybe digested all of the experience of what being an all-star meant?
I feel like I did a great job of just staying in the moment, understanding that it's an awesome accomplishment, but also uh, just trying to enjoy the weekend for what it is. And I think I did a good job.
Anything that like stood out from the time out there that was particularly special?
Um, yeah, I think it was great to have some of my family and friends out there, teammates, coworkers. Uh, it's a lot better to enjoy things with everybody than just yourself, and it was awesome. I think it was a great experience. I loved the jerseys, the warm-ups, uh, I think it was a great experience. I feel like, uh, All-Star Weekend is more so about the show than the actual game. And I feel like this year there's a good balance of both.
So your teammates being out there, obviously that's not something that they're required to do. Same with like a jersey retirement with Duff recently. Can you kind of just speak to, I guess, what that says about this group? You guys do support each other, even when it's not necessarily required.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is it's genuine. It's not forced. Everybody enjoys not only playing with each other, but knowing each other, being around each other, spending time with each other, which is what it's all about. If you force yourself to try and fake a friendship, it's miserable for everybody. So, I think the best thing is that it's genuine. Everybody makes sure it's genuine. Nobody tries to go over the top with trying to prove that they're friends with everybody. And I think that's the great part about it.
Did you do people watching at the also? I mean, you've been in the league a while, so you've seen great players. I'm on the fraternity, but like maybe somebody you watched growing up as a kid, somebody get right about her.
I mean, I wouldn't say that. I would just say like, I played in MSG. I've played in LA before, but Obama wasn't sitting courtside, so it was definitely different. It was very cool and see the former president and his family there, and then everybody who's in there. Bud Crawford's in there, Jerry Kiss is in there, like you name it. I was doing some goofy game with Drewski and Rip Hamilton, and it was it really, that's the part of it when I say it's more about the show than the actual game. Everybody's there for the circus of All-Star Weekend, especially because it was in LA. It's in a good city, and that's the beautiful part of it, but I also feel like it was a fun game to be a part of too.
What was it like coming back these last couple of, it was just being back with the group after, the longest time away that you've been the whole season?
I think it's great. I feel like everybody is kind of fresh and got like a little bit of relief from the mundane routine of an NBA season, and I don't think anybody gets tired of seeing each other's faces, but it's definitely a warm welcome when you get a little break and they come back to it.
What are your expectations for during down the stretch around here to help you guys out?
Yeah, good question. I wouldn't say I have expectations for him. I feel like he has high expectations of himself, and he's going to continue to chase an appetite for more in terms of how he can help the team, and how he can grow within that. And he's a really good player with a great skill set of skills that we need, especially right now. So I think it'll be easy. It'll be natural for him, and we'll see him continue to grow as he gets his feet under him, as we learn how to play with him more, as he learns how to play with us more.
you guys have a lot of competitors for us, the roster. We're just like very in how we're competitive. But a guy like Mark's not really overt and things like that. He's pretty even keel. Do you have any examples of Mark just sort of as a competitive guy?
Yeah, I'd say Mark isn't physically competitive. He's very mentally competitive. So in terms of preparation and being sharp and knowing his stuff, he's never going to try and beat you in a race down the court. But in terms of the other stuff, it's very rare where he doesn't beat everybody else. He's very prepared, very on top of his stuff. He knows what he needs to know, and if he doesn't know it, he figures it out pretty quick. So that's the competitor that he is, and that's why he's won Coach of the Year. He's won a championship, and that's why he's on his way to being an all-time coach.
How far ahead are you guys? You look at this schedule, because being champions, and you know it's probably better than I do, but you guys got a lot of, again, play Detroit yet. You got Bill Boston twice, been Rick more. You have a lot of tough games left. Do you look at it that way, or is it just, hey, we just got 26 games left or whatever, and let's go for it? Does it get your attention, I guess?
Well, I mean, you have to look at who you play in order to prepare for them, but you can't get so wrapped up in who you play that you forget what you need to work on, who you need to try and beat. It doesn't matter if we play Detroit or Boston or we got Brooklyn tomorrow. It doesn't matter. We got to focus on making sure that our rotations are sharp. We're running wide in transition. We're rebounding on both ends, having each other's back. We got to worry about that stuff. And, the schedule is set. The schedule is what it is. No matter what you do, it's not going to change. So, we can't really focus on that stuff. You got to focus on yourself.
Markley, shortly before we had the break, it made very clear it really was a break. So what did you try to do for yourself, kind of personally, in spending this time that you had about a week?
Yeah, it was good for everybody, I think. I was here with my kids, which is no better place to be than with my kids. So that was great. And then I think just talking to some of the guys and the staff, everybody was able to get what they needed to get their cup filled. So guys came back today energized and refreshed. Seemed to be good enthusiasm in the gym. And so we're ready to go here.
You kind of look at this as, I think, 27, 28 games left. Just kind of get guys back healthy. I mean, talk about how important that's going to be for you guys, just to get a healthy squad back. That's kind of the story of the first half for you.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a priority when you have guys out to get them back and get them back in a way that is sustainable. So we're always going to be cautious in that process, but we'd like to get healthy. But you also can't wait around, in terms of continuing to find ways to improve within whatever the circumstances are. As I mentioned before the All-Star break, I think we've actually done a pretty good job of that. It's been a little choppy. It's been hard to find like a team rhythm just with the consistency of availability. But I think we've accomplished some things, especially with the individual growth of players. And now it's a matter of starting to fit that together as we come down the stretch of the season and continue to build and grow in the fundamentals that we know we're going to need, as we come down the stretch and further if we earn it.
Well, to that point, you, I think before the break, mentioned with Kaysen, like his ability to maybe generate some individual advantages has improved, and how that might map out into, a playoff, situation where ball handlers are being jammed. Can you provide any other like additional examples of that individual advantage creation, or maybe tandem advantage creation, that you feel like has really, improved this season amongst the guys?
I mean, it's not just advantage creation. I think, you can go guy by guy. I think a guy like Chet is obviously having the most efficient season of his career. Isaiah Joe's having the most efficient season of his career. Shai's having the most efficient season of his career and the lowest turnover season of his career. The defensive guys' metrics are through the roof. Caruso, Kaysen, Dort has taken on the toughest matchups in the NBA. Lou has. Right on down the line. I think there's just been a ton of individual growth in a vacuum that kind of gets, just kind of lost in the season, the 82 game season. And, we've had guys in and out. It's been a little bit fragmented, and it can get lost in that as well. But we have a lot of guys that are better players than they were a year ago in a vacuum, more efficient players, more tighter inside their game than they were a year ago. And now our challenge is to make sure that every single night the whole is better than the sum of the parts. I think we did a pretty good job of that in the first 2/3 of the season. We have to do a great job of it in the last third to assure that we're continuing to improve not only individually but collectively.
You mentioned the depth of Father like Lou. Seemed like the people's known as a 3-point guy. It seemed like he's put the ball on the floor more, got more in the paint, mid-range, things of that nature, and not just a spot up 3 guy.
Yeah, I mean, his like rim finishing, for example, is the best of his career right now. And some of that is just the shots he's laying off of. He's finding good finishes, but he's also not trying to finish shots that he can't finish. He's extending plays or getting onto 2 feet, or avoiding the drive altogether if there's not a drive to be had. So, he's made subtle but impactful growth, and that's what you're constantly doing, at all times, is making investments with the guys in their individual games to try to help them be the best players they can be, generally, and for our team. And then you're making those same types of investments on a team level as you go through an 82-game season, and you try to do all those things within whatever the circumstances are. And so we've had less than ideal circumstances, obviously, but no team in the league goes through an 82-game schedule with ideal circumstances. It's really about your ability to endure those things and to figure out ways to improve and thrive despite them.
Jada would mention that I guess one of the silver linings with first hamstring injury was he was able to rest his wrist more. So were you able to see, I guess, maybe an added level of comfort? Were you able to sense that out of him? And I know it was only like a game and a half. He was back before he had the second hamstring, but you kind of just speak to, I guess, how much that time was beneficial to him.
I mean, objectively, during that period of time, he was taking more shots with the wrist in practice than he had at any other point in the season. That's a fact, which allowed him to, rep it out and gain some rhythm and gain comfort with that. And I think that was on display when he came back. He obviously was, he had a look of confidence in that thing that was really exciting to see. And so I think that's been a huge part of it. It's not really resting it as much as it is repping it, and it's just continued to improve. But knowing that he had off-season surgery, and it's something that doesn't improve overnight. It's not like a broken bone that just like heals. It's something that you have to work through, and he has to work through the range of motion. He's gone through that process. He's done a great job with that process, and it's better than it's ever been, right? Or since the surgery, it's the best it's been right now. So it'll only continue to improve. He'll continue to work at it.
Kaysen's currently leading the league in total steals, but he also has more steals than fouls. What's sort of the value of a guy like
More steals than fouls?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
To have that sort of value as a defensive playmaker who also isn't super, I guess, risky?
I mean, the fouling, fouls are the most efficient. Free throw is the most efficient thing that can happen on the court. A free throw trip is more efficient in the NBA than a rim attempt because the rim attempts are sometimes contested. And so, one way to get more efficiency than your opponent is to get to the line as much as possible and limit the opponent fouls. And in his case, he's pressuring on the perimeter. And so some of his fouls are, stuff that gets you towards the bonus more so than like shooting fouls. Like Chet and Hardenstein, they're probably more likely to have shooting fouls because of where they are on the court. But yeah, I mean, we don't want to be a team that's fouling a lot. We want to be a team that's disciplined and that's physical, but that's doing so inside the bounds and not putting our opponents on the line in a reckless way, because those, like I said, they're very efficient plays and they allow the defense to set itself. There's a lot of reasons why we don't want them on the free throw line.
Knowing that you have just 26 games just remaining on the schedule, where you have the first 2/3 of the season done, is there anything coming out of the All-Star break that you guys kind of like prioritize, set your mind on heading into this back half of the season?
Yeah, I mean, we're always trying to, first of all, operate inside whatever the circumstances are. You can't change your circumstances. So that's the first thing, is like figuring out how to maximize, like I said, the development of our players and the development of our team inside the circumstances that exist. The second thing is thinking about how we need to evolve. What do we need to add or layer as we come down the stretch of the season? And then the last thing is the stuff that we know is going to matter. The fundamentals that we know the games are going to come down to, whether it's tomorrow night's game or the biggest game you can imagine. the games come down to the same things, and they come down to fundamentals. And there's layers, and there's attacks, and there's plays, and there's lineups, and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a very predictable game, and you have to be good at certain things if you want to be good. And we need to hone in on that as well. Now, we've done a good job of that. There's a reason we've positioned ourselves well to this point. But we got to continue to sharpen that blade and maximize the last third of the season.
Specifically with Joe, he was shooting the ball just incredibly well going into the break. I think the last 4 games or so. Is there anything that you noticed from him? I know he's a pretty consistent guy in terms of the cracks that he's getting, but is there anything in particular you noticed recently going into the break from him that kind of allowed the pop that we see from?
Yeah, I mean the injuries to the ball handlers, which has been a long stretch of time now, where we've had only one of them or none of them. Has had lineups on the floor either for the whole game or for parts of the game where we've used the bigs and movement off of the bigs to create advantages, which isn't really our fastball when we're fully whole, but it's been something we've always had on the menu, for this reason and for the diversity of that. And it's something we've turned up obviously lately with who we've had available. And so a lot of the shots that he's normally getting in the flow of our offense are spot ups, where he's in a spot, his gravity is creating space, or he's getting a shot. We've turned up the movement, and that's put him in more of these opportunities where he's flying around. And it's been really good for us. I've said this multiple times over the last couple games, but it's been so good for us that we're thinking about what are the situations and circumstances that would need to exist for that to be the best thing for us, independent of whether or not we have guys down. I do think when we get whole, there's room for that, and the guys are showing that there's room for that right now with some of the things we're able to do, and he's a part of that.
Jared McCain is learning the Thunder way on the fly and doing a pretty good job. What do you expect from him, or what do you hope to get from him in this stretch run?
I mean, it's similar to what he's done, which is come in, don't skip steps, don't try to speed anything up or rush anything just because it was a mid-season trade. It's better to invest the time to make sure that you're learning everything, crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's. That's from a program standpoint, system standpoint, basketball philosophy. We want him to understand those things. And if we have to wait a couple minutes for him to learn the whole playbook, all the under out of bounds plays, for him to learn those things, we'll take that time. It's worth the investment. And so that's the first thing, continue to do that. I think the break was helpful for him specifically, just to let him catch his breath. And then continue to do what he's done, which is he goes out there, and I said this before, but I'll say it again. He's functional and respectful of the fact that he's joining a team that's had a lot of success together, including this season. But at the same time, he's confident. He's not deferential. He's not sitting around admiring the team. I mean, he's a part of it, and when he's open, he shoots. When he's not, he makes the right play. He competes on defense. He plays inside of his game. He's set a great tone so far with all that stuff. So it's allowed him to be pretty impactful, despite the fact that he doesn't even know, everybody's name.
AJ, Shay, Jalen, anything, the injured guys.
Yeah.
How much were they able to do today?
I have no update on that. We'll just continue to do it through the mechanisms that we do, an injury report, and then what Matt puts out.
Mark, it seems like you've had a chance to look at AJ, or not AJ, but Isaiah Joe and McCain in there together a little bit. Is there something in particular about that lineup? So with whoever they're in there, it works, those two guys on the floor at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I know that stood out to you guys. Been asked about it a lot. I've said this before, but lineup decisions, rotation decisions are all interconnected. It's like dominoes. You have one domino here, you push that over, it knocks over another domino. So it's not like when we traded for him, we started there. It's not like we were like, we're going to play these guys together. It was a byproduct of who we had available at that particular time, how we thought we could best utilize the 48 minutes with the guys that we had. I always say we want to be a 48-minute team, and you want to have quality lineups on the floor. You want to balance over the course of those 48 minutes. That's where we started. A lot of it, if I'm being honest, was circumstantial more than it was, targeting that as an end. But it's been pretty good, and that's what you do when you're exploratory with rotations and lineups is you put stuff out there. It's obviously like an educated guess. You're not just throwing anything at the wall, but you put stuff out there, and then you let the data and what your eyes are telling you give you feedback on that. And if something's good, you turn it up. If something's not good, you turn it down, or you look for something else. And we try to stay in a constant state of that. And one of the, silver linings of having guys out is it forces you into situations where you have to look at some of those things. And that's a great example of it. Like when we traded for him, it's not like I was sitting there saying, I'm going to play him with Isaiah Joe. That's just where we started, and it's gone pretty well.
Speaking of that, guy Brandon Carlson, you got to slow his, I guess, number of games he can play. I think he's down to 13 or whatever.
Yep.
We kind of save him over there. That was one.
Yeah, I mean, you're on a budget with your two-way players with that, and we try to be pretty strategic about that, balancing what we need in the moment but also understanding what we might need down the road. And what's hard about that is the future's uncertain, so you don't know what's going to happen and what you might need. And so we want to make sure that as we're coming down the stretch of the season, we're well positioned with those guys to have them available when we need them. That we don't know when we will need them, but we certainly have to budget that, and we're on that. We're aware of his games and aware that he's only got 50% of the games left, so we have to be wise in terms of how we use that.